Ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, I've got my Khalil Mack jersey on today, which can only mean one thing. We're going to be talking about edge rushers. He's my favorite edge rusher of all time, so I figured it was appropriate for the intro here. But I'm ready to dive into this. I am so excited. I love this year's edge class. I've been doing the evaluating prospects thing since 2023, and I can say with full confidence, this is easily my favorite edge group I've evaluated, and might be my favorite position group I've evaluated. I love the 20 players that I have fully evaluated and written up, and then I've also watched 10 or 15 guys that I just haven't gotten around to fully putting into my spreadsheet that I really enjoyed watching as well. I mean, it's such a fun class filled with so many different types of players, and I would argue it's the deepest I've seen. I have 10 guys in this video, 2 of which have true first round grades. The other 8 all have second round grades. And then I have even more that have third round grades sitting on my board. So again, I'm really excited to dive into this one. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's go ahead and dive into my top 10 edge rushers in the 2026 NFL Draft. Starting us off here at number 10, we've got one of my favorite players we're going to talk about today, and that is Jay-Sean Barham, the senior out of Michigan. And I'm going to be honest, walking into his tape, I did not expect to have him this high. I did not expect to be talking about him in this video here, but I walked away very impressed. Now, I will say part of that is because I got maybe the worst information I could have. Full disclosure, I do not watch a ton of college football during the regular season. I do my scouting, I watch things in the off season, just because I'm so dialed into the NFL and don't have a ton of free time in the fall, right? So because of that, I wasn't watching Jay-Sean Barham on Sundays, and my impression of him online when I first was like trying to research, okay, what linebackers do I need to watch? What edge rushers do I need to watch? A lot of people were talking about him as a linebacker, and I ended up going back after, sitting down to make my graphics for this video in preparation for this video to try to find those tweets of people talking about him as like an off-ball linebacker at the next level, and I couldn't. So I don't know if I had like a crazy fever dream and just imagined tweets about Jay-Sean Barham, or if like there's some secret psyop out there that was trying to trick me into not putting him in my top 10 edges video. But walking away from his tape, knowing he is projected to be an edge rusher at the next level, I loved what I saw. If he was projected to be a linebacker, like I for some reason thought he was supposed to be, I would not be talking very fondly of him. And the biggest reason for that is his coverage ability, and that's honestly the biggest reason why I think he should stick at edge. And that's because he's not a good coverage player. Like, he can cover a shallow zone or carry a running back into the flat or whatever, but he doesn't have the hip fluidity to mirror in man coverage. He doesn't have the instincts when lined up as an off-ball linebacker to really hold his own in zone. That's just not his game, and that's okay. And I bring this up because obviously a lot of people look at these hybrids, these tweeners, these guys that can play edge and linebacker and think, oh, well, we've got a Swiss Army knife that can do it all for our defense. And I don't think that's Barham. I think he is a true edge rusher. Now, could you line him up as like a weak side backer and blitz him and have him go up against a guard as opposed to a tackle, or go up against a center? Absolutely, you could get away with that. Like Tuli Tuipulotu for the Chargers, they do that with him a little bit. You could absolutely do that with Barham because he has the quickness to get downhill, and he can read and react to the line from that off-ball position, and he would also be effective as a run defender in that way. But you're not going to do that and then drop him into coverage. You're not going to do that and then expect him to carry the tight end up the seam. That's just not his game, right? Instead, what you've got is this rabid downhill player who I've seen a lot of people compare to the Tasmanian Devil, and I think that's very accurate. Like, Barham is a freak in terms of his motor. He's the only player on this list who I gave an A+2 in his motor. And the reason for that is because no one's motor compares to this guy. I would have given him an A++ if I could, but that seemed a little overkill, right? So his motor is by far and away his best trait, which is not normally something you want to hear, because that typically means like, oh, this guy gives it his all, but he kind of sucks, right? But with Barham, that's not the case. Like, he is a very well-rounded player who is developing quickly as a pass rusher. I really liked how his hand usage evolved over time throughout his senior year. It wasn't there initially, but by the time the season ended during his last game, you could really tell he had made big progress. Is he where he needs to be? Is he going to consistently win with his hands at the next level? Not yet, but he's only 22. You have plenty of time for him to grow before he hits his peak, and I think that's very exciting. I think there's a lot to get excited about here. While the hand usage is exciting, his arsenal of moves really isn't there. You know, he's got like a bull rush and a couple things here and there that he flashed, but outside of that, it's still very much a work in progress. He was primarily winning with athleticism at Michigan, either beating tackles to the edge with speed, he could cut across a guy's face and win in the A-gap, he could bull rush, like I said, his bend is pretty good. Like, those were the ways he was winning at Michigan, and that's fine coming in as a rookie, especially if you're drafting him with the knowledge that he's going to be like your third edge rusher, kind of a DPR, designated pass rusher early on. You can be happy with that. But you do want to see that growth, and I think there's plenty of reason to believe that that growth is possible with Jayshawn Barham. He also has a wicked first step, just explodes off the ball. And as a run defender, I was very impressed with his diagnostics from the edge position. He has very good awareness from the spot, both in the run and pass game, despite only having limited playing time there. His gap discipline was pretty solid, but he will struggle to hold the edge because of his lack of mass and his shorter arms. They're not, like, terrible. They're no Ruben Bain, who we'll talk about, but, like, they're not fantastic. And so there are going to be times where he is going to struggle to get that extension or hold up at contact, excuse me. It's not super often, but it is enough for me to think like, okay, this is a 3-4 edge, not a hand in the dirt, even front edge, right? So I like Barham a lot. He's exciting. He's fun. He comes downhill every play looking to kill somebody, and that can get him in trouble. I do have to mention the penalties. He was penalized a lot his senior year, including for headbutting a ref. So maybe you want him to take a chill pill or two, but you gotta love that energy. If you can kind of reel that in, get him working with his hands more consistently, Barham could be a freak. I mean, he could be a straight up freak. So yeah, he's a guy I like a lot, and I'm very excited to see what kind of player he's going to turn into at the next level. At number 9, we've got Cassius Howell, the 5th-year senior out of Texas A&M. And I went back and forth a little bit with Howell because I have my reservations with his size and more specifically with his consistency. Now, this is not to say that Howell is some like huge up and down player that has super high peaks and super low valleys. He's not TJ Parker, right? Instead, Howell has moments of inconsistency where you're really frustrated because you know he's better than that. And what is worrisome about these moments, these lapses, is that as a smaller edge rusher with 30.25-inch arms, his margin for error is so small. He cannot afford to have moments like that, because moments like that lead to a 30-yard run, or not getting to the quarterback and him completing a pass downfield. And so there's this kind of like cat and mouse back and forth game that I'm playing in my head, where I'm like, oh, he's so good, he was such a fun college pass rusher, but that inconsistency, you know, like, it's kind of hard for me, or was kind of hard for me, I should say, to reel it all in, but I decided on him being edge 9. I think this is a good spot for him. Somebody who I think, at the very least, can be a nice number 3, a designated pass rusher for your defense, but if he can work on that consistency and things can come together a little bit more, he could be a number 2. He has that upside there. Now, he is 23, so we're starting to encroach on, like, kind of put up or shut up territory, but we're not there yet. If he can work on his hands this offseason and really become a true technician, then we're cooking with gas, right? Because as of right now, it's not that his hand usage is bad. It's just every once in a while they will land wide, or he won't put as much oomph behind his initial punch as you want him to, and that will allow a tackle to swipe his hands away or get their hands in his chest. And because he is a smaller edge rusher, if that happens against some of these hulking behemoths that he'll go up against, that's kind of it for the play, right? Now, I do like the baseline a lot of where we're at as a pass rusher. He's got a spin, a Euro step, a cross chop, some swipes, and then a very nice bull hump counter that he can tap into to win. He also has really good bend. Now, you know, he's not like Von Miller, but he gets the job done. He can bend the corner, he can beat guys around the outside. The other thing that worries me, though, with that is his speed, because it was fine in college to the point where he could beat guys across their face. But at the next level, against bigger, stronger, quicker tackles, his speed is not as good as you would want it to be for someone his size, and that's because he's carrying 253 pounds of muscle, so he's a little bit slower. He has a fantastic first step, but after he hits that first step, the speed does kind of dwindle a little bit. Now, I'm not suggesting we have him lose weight, because I think that would sap any potential he has as a run defender, but it is kind of like a catch-22, right? So if he develops the hand usage, if that can become more of a thing, and he can do a better job of getting behind his pads with a bull rush, which is something he did flash at Texas A&M, you could be cooking with gas there. As a run defender, he does do a good job of setting the edge because his arms are strong. He's able to lock out really good grip strength to keep tackles at bay if he can get that initial leverage. Because of that, his gap discipline is also pretty solid. The diagnostics as a run defender aren't great, primarily because he will drop his head and, won't have his eyes up, doesn't have the good eye discipline that you want to see. His ability to stack and shed is also less than ideal because of that lack of arm length and because he isn't the strongest guy in the world. He has fine play strength, and I definitely think he could tap into it a little bit more, but you'd like to see that, right? You're not there yet. Now, I do like what he does as a tackler despite having shorter arms. I mean, it's clear that he cares a lot about the fundamentals, about his mechanics as a tackler, does a very good job of wrapping up. And in coverage, he is very capable, more capable than Jayshawn Barham, for example, somebody that can drop into a decent zone and kind of hold his own, pass guys off. Not an elite coverage player, but definitely one that you can feel comfortable with. And the motor. I mean, the motor is fantastic. He is, again, not quite Jayshawn Barham, who is one of a kind in terms of his motor in this class, but he plays his ass off every rep to the point where I really do feel like he embodies the saying of it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. He is this undersized edge rusher who does not take a play off. So I really like the upside for Howell. If he can build up that consistency and be a more well-rounded player, then, like I said, I think he can be a very, very nice number 2. At worst case scenario, though, I do think he will consistently win off the edge for you with his bend, with his athletic traits, and with the hand usage he does have. Again, it's not perfect, but it is enough to win with, and I do think that will translate to the next level. So yeah, Howell is one I like. Not one of my favorites in this class, but I definitely see the vision, I see the projection, and I think he will make a team happy if they spend a second-round pick on him. At number 8, we've got Keldrick Falk, the junior out of Auburn. And I know, a lot of discourse about Keldrick Falk out there. I'm going to try to land in the middle of the is he great, is he terrible, kind of two opinions I keep seeing. I think Keldrick Falk has a high floor in the NFL with a low ceiling. That is where I sit. Because as a run defender, fantastic player. As a pass rusher, he could get better, and that would make him a number 2. But I don't see this, potential alpha number 1 type of guy. It's just, I don't think in the cards, I don't think he has the athleticism. I don't think he has the bend or the get off or anything like that to be some super freak at edge. And that's okay. Not everyone needs to be Myles Garrett. You need your number 2s, this is a bad example because they're very different in terms of play, but your Montez Sweats, right? Montez Sweat is a very quality player who, if the Bears front office wasn't continuing to whiff on edge rushers, would be a very good number 2. Instead, he's a number 1, and we don't love it. Shout out Austin Booker, though. He's coming for that job this year. But back to Falk, he can be a number 2, and that's okay. I really like the floor as a run defender. And I think, if nothing else, you can make him into a good power rusher who bull rushes the shit out of people and pushes the pocket to open up for other guys to actually get to the quarterback. Or you could kick him inside, and he could probably find a lot of success as a D tackle because his profile really is more so that of a D tackle. But taking a look at Falk, we'll start with the bad, then we'll talk about the good. As a pass rusher, no bend, no flexibility in his lower half, very poor first step. It's not atrocious to where he stands straight up off the ball and starts walking forward, but he doesn't fire off the ball very well. He tries, it's just not there. Doesn't have a good arsenal of pass rushing moves, doesn't tap into counters, doesn't hand fight super successfully. He just kind of runs into the guy across from him and hopes for the best. And sometimes the best is there when he gets behind his pads, he gets good extension, and he uses his power. The problem is he does not always do that. Now, if he could do that more consistently, again, he would be a very good pocket pusher that would get to the quarterback and be a number 2 as a pass rusher. I need to see growth there, relatively quickly, because I know he's only 20, but that's kind of something you should have figured out by 20, That seems like a pretty straightforward thing. I'm 276 pounds. I have arms that are longer than 34 inches. I'm very strong. Why can't I just get behind my pads and move this guy consistently? You know, you want to see that get better. I don't know how much he can or will develop as a hand fighter because he just seems so far behind the 8-ball. If he could get there, then he could add a little bit of nuance to his game and we could be cooking with something. But it's just such a low floor right now for that I'm not going to bet on it anytime soon. So, not great there. Also, not a great tackler. Really struggles to wrap up. He'll come in a little hot. His form is kind of messy as there's someone riding by my bedroom with a lawnmower. I really hope you can't hear that. And then obviously he doesn't have any coverage flexibility. He's 276 pounds. You're not dropping him into coverage, but I do need to bring it up. So as a pass rusher, not getting a whole lot from Keldrick Falk. At least not right now. You could get a little bit. You know, he could be like an 8-sack guy, but you need to see some growth there. However, upon drafting Keldrick Falk, you're probably getting the best run defending edge in this class. Like day one, very good stack and shed technique. He does a great job of holding his position and peeking, reading the running back, getting into the backfield, maintains fantastic gap discipline. His diagnostics are great. He rarely falls for eye candy, and he is definitely the best edge setter among this edge class. I mean, he's 6'6", 276 pounds with 34 3/8 inch arms. It would be a travesty if he was not the best edge setter in this class. So, but this talk of him like sneaking into the first round, I've seen people putting him in the top 20 in their mocks. I think that's a little much, just because he's not like a great athlete. Now, if Falk was some like freak athlete that was an elite run defender and couldn't rush the passer, then sure. But I just don't see that with Falk. Like he's not that at all. He is a very limited athlete, which is why I think he's more of a day 2 talent. At number 7, we have Malachi Lawrence, the 5th-year senior out of UCF. And 2 things before we get into Lawrence's profile. I want to explain 2 things here. Number 1, my Edge 5, my Edge 6, and my Edge 7 all do have the same grade or value. As you can see, that early to mid round 2 grade, they're all going to share that. If it helps in your head to view them as Edge 5A, 5B, and 5C, go ahead, right? Because technically speaking, you know, from a semantic level, they do have the same grade for me. However, I do believe there is a little bit of separation between each player. I think 5 is better than 6, and 6 is better than 7. So that's not how it's labeled for me. But if it helps you understand my board better or makes you like my top 10 more, by all means, right? You wouldn't be incorrect. The other thing here, you can see for Lawrence's role, I have Robin listed. If you don't know, a lot of people use the term Batman and Robin to describe a dynamic duo, right? I really like this for edge rushers because it gives you a good idea of what they're capable of. A Batman is your like Myles Garrett, your Micah Parsons, your guys that are truly able to take over a game, be the top dog on a defensive line. If you walk into a season with one of these guys as your top edge rusher, you're feeling very, very good about what's going to happen, right? And then you have Robin, which gives you a little bit more nuance. Because in his purest state, a Robin is a true number 2. Somebody that is not the most dominant player on your defensive line, not the most, effective pass rusher on your defensive line, but they fill an important role. They are your number 2. They are the complementary piece. They might be a good run defender that can't rush the passer, or vice versa. They might not be a complete player. They might just be somebody who you like having out there that isn't the top dog, and that's okay. But then every once in a while, a Robin can rise to the occasion and, turn out to be a top dog. Like, to get nerdy for a second, my favorite comic book character of all time is Nightwing, who is the original Robin. He rises to the occasion as he grows up, becomes his own hero, establishes his own baseline, and becomes just as good, if not better, than Batman. So there are some Robins that kind of rise, right? And every once in a while, you have a Robin who is thrust into a situation where they shouldn't be a Batman, but kind of have to be a Batman, which is also a thing that happens for Robin in the comics. Nightwing, namely, there's a point where Batman goes missing. I can't remember the comic run for the life of me, but Batman goes missing, and Robin has to take over temporarily as Batman. And so, I think it's a very fitting analogy. Like, a Robin in that sense would be like a Montez Sweat, right? He's not a number 1. But he is kind of forced into being a number 1 because of the way Chicago's D-line is built. I've spent almost 3 minutes here talking about nerd shit, so I'm going to leave that there, but I hope that made things make sense. Basically, this is a long-winded way of saying a number 2. I just wanted an excuse to nerd out a little bit. So, that being said, Malachi Lawrence, the edge rusher out of UCF, love what he brings to the table as a pass rusher. Absolutely adore it. He's not the bendiest guy in the world. His bull rush isn't great, but what he does as a hand fighter and what he's able to do chaining together moves as a pass rusher is super, super exciting. He has the best hand usage in this class, in my opinion, in terms of accuracy, in terms of having pop to jolt blockers upright, in terms of, you know, being able to strike on time and things of that nature, and also having a deep arsenal of moves. The only reason his arsenal isn't an A+ is because I think his counters are weak. I would like to see him tap into more diverse counters. But other than that, he has everything you could want as a hand fighter. On top of that, pretty good athlete, not an elite athlete. You know, he's no Arvell Reese, who we'll talk about, no David Bailey, but he does have juice. He does have good enough lateral agility, and he can beat a guy across his face. Like, he's got enough juice and enough technique and refinement as a pass rusher to get you excited. I would also say his plan as a pass rusher, a thing of beauty. Every single rep, he goes in knowing exactly what he wants to do, exactly how he wants to attack the tackle in front of him, and more often than not, it works out in his favor because he knows how to string his moves together, how to use leverage to his advantage, how to win inside, how to win outside. He's got a little bit of everything. Now again, the bend and the bull rush aren't great. The bull rush is solid because he does have that pop in his hands, and he's really good at building up leverage and can get extension, but his lower half is slim, which does hurt him a little bit and hurts him more in another area that we'll talk about in a second. Also worth noting, very good first step. Very, very good. He explodes off the line of scrimmage. But where the concerns lie with Malachi Lawrence is in run defense, because first and foremost, his diagnostics are not that good. They are fine, but the fact that he is not like a physical specimen does not make up for the lack of diagnostics, right? Like, if a guy can't read out the run very well, sometimes there are cases where they're just big and they're strong and they throw dudes around and shit works anyways. Lawrence is not one of those guys. What ends up happening is he will get lost, he will duck his head, he just won't see what's going on behind him, and then he will get stuck on a block and not do a whole lot of anything, excuse me. And so you are hoping that that can develop. Now, he is 23. You'd kind of expect that to be a little further along at this point, but there's still a world where it can get better, and if it does, he can be an every down player and maybe even blossom into a Batman, maybe even be the Nightwing of this class, right? In his current state, he's a good number 2 who's going to get to the quarterback and can do a little bit against the run. I mean, he can set the edge because he has long arms, but even then, that's not super consistent because of that slender lower half. He doesn't have a great base. He doesn't have a great anchor to work off of. His gap discipline will also suffer because of that. He's also not a fantastic tackler, primarily due to the fact that his hips are pretty stiff, so that did create some issues. His technique when he did wrap up, though, was pretty nice. So I like Lawrence a lot. I think there's a lot to like here. Again, you want to see him get better against the run. That could really take him to the next level. But in his current state, you know, I still think he has a floor as a very good starter, a number 2, maybe a high-end number 3 if you're not as sold on his athleticism, because he did look a little bit more athletic at the combine than he did on tape. But either way, I think he will be a very, very nice pickup for somebody on day 2 of the draft. At number 6, we've got David Bailey, the senior out of Texas Tech. And I have so many ways I want to go with this out the gate. So I'm just going to start with the off-field stuff, right? Because I feel like that's not getting talked about a lot for some reason. And that's the fact that David Bailey has multiple instances in his history, in his collegiate career, of losing his temper and taking it out on someone else, right? He stomped on an opponent in a game early on in his college career, and then a little bit later, he was angry after a loss and physically assaulted a cameraman. And that's concerning. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that should ruin his career. Absolutely not, right? There are much worse players in this league than David Bailey. Mike Green got drafted on day 2 last year. There's no reason why David Bailey should not be able to get drafted that high. right? I want to make that clear. I'm not trying to say that this is the end-all be-all of David Bailey's career. He's a young guy. People make mistakes. It happens. I understand. I myself am a year older than David Bailey. I've made mistakes I'm not proud of, but I haven't assaulted people, you know? Point being with all of this, there's a clear temperament issue. That is clearly something here that will need to be handled, will need to be addressed, and cannot be a thing in the NFL. Point blank period. Just to get that out of the way. Beyond that, though, we are looking at a hyper-athletic pass rusher with a lot of upside, a lot of college production, that isn't a good run defender, has very little in terms of a pass rushing arsenal, and isn't very bendy. Because of that, I have my reservations with him. I really do. And I'm going to be honest, the off-field stuff doesn't knock him down a ton for me, maybe a spot or two. My bigger concerns are with the on-field product. Because at this point in time, David Bailey is purely coasting on athleticism, which is fine. You know, if you're more dominant than the guy across from you, take advantage of that. But going up against like the big dogs that know what they're doing, David Bailey's not going to have a good time because he's not somebody that has a bunch of counters in his bag, knows how to respond when somebody gets their hands on him because he's not used to it. And when it did happen to him, he stalled out. So if you can't threaten the corner with bend, your power profile is going to be lowered because it already wasn't fantastic at Texas Tech. It was solid, but you know, going up against bigger, stronger linemen, it's going to be worse. And your athleticism isn't going to be as coveted as it was at the collegiate level because you're going up against more athletic tackles. You need to have that bag to lean on, and he just doesn't have it. So I'm not trying to say that I think David Bailey's going to be a bust. You know, there is definitely high upside here. The problem I have is people saying this should be a top 3 pick, you know? I think David Bailey is comfortably a, you know, high upside day 2 pass rusher that a team would get really excited about either at the beginning of day 2 or maybe the back end of the first round. You know, you want to take him, make sure you have that 5th year option. That would make a ton of sense. But once we're getting into like, you know, top 3 pick conversations, we're talking about the Jets taking him at 2, a team trading up to 3 to take him. I just can't buy it. I really cannot. The technical aspects of his game are just too far behind the curve for me to feel that comfortable with him going in the first round, that high in the first round. And he's not a good run defender either. He doesn't see the field very well. He struggles to get off blocks. He struggles to hold his gap. He can set the edge, but it's inconsistent. Like, the effort's there as a run defender. I'll give him that. But that's another aspect of his game that you need to develop. So David Bailey is a fully developmental edge who doesn't even have all of the, like, ideal developmental traits. That lack of bend really hurts him. If David Bailey had better bend, like, if he could win around the corner, sure, absolutely, top 3 pick in this class. But he doesn't. That's going to hold him back. So, again, I feel like I'm sounding like David Bailey's biggest hater here. I'm not. I do absolutely recognize that this is a high upside player that is worth a shot on day 2. But the pre-draft hype, I just got to push back against it, you know? I'm not, again, I don't think David Bailey will fail 100% guaranteed, anything like that. I'm not even confident the chance of him failing is high. It's just higher than I to be comfortable with, right? And at the end of the day, this is my board. You know, I'm not an NFL executive. A team will probably take him in the top 10, and I'm not going to sit here and act like they'll lose their job over it. But if we come back in 3 years and David Bailey hasn't progressed the way everyone thought he would, and a GM does lose their job over it, I wouldn't be shocked, right? So I don't know. I want to like David Bailey. I want to be on the train. I want to be on the everything, but I'm just not. I'm not there with him. And that's just how it is, I guess. Getting into our top 5, at number 5, we've got Gabe Akis, the senior from Illinois. And I fell in love with his tape almost immediately. I watched Akis later, relative to the rest of these guys. In fact, he was the second to last edge rusher I watched. And he immediately shot up my board. I knew from the first game I watched, I was like, this is my guy, right? This is probably my biggest my guy in this edge class. Just because he has everything, just about. He's a little bit behind the curve as a run defender, but outside of that, he has everything that would make you confident in him as a day 1, number 2, with his pass rushing. And if he can get a little bit more consistent in a few areas, he could be a number 1. So taking a look at the negatives first, just to get them out of the way. Number one, his plan as a pass rusher, not really that refined. He does do a good job of like setting up moves and stringing them together, but it kind of feels like he picks up on that on the fly. Like, he doesn't go into a rep going, okay, I'm going to attack the inside shoulder and then I'm going to counter into a spin. Like, he doesn't really do a lot of that. He feels like a really good improviser, which is great. But at the NFL level, you need to be a little bit ahead, right? It's a chess game. You're going up against seasoned veterans. You're going up against like a Lane Johnson, a Tristan Wirfs. You need to be thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead. You cannot go in there like it's D&D on Saturday night, playing full improv. You gotta have a plan, right? And Akis just is not there with that yet. But the fact that he is able to improvise so well makes me think that he will be able to come up with those plans more consistently with a little bit of coaching there. On top of that, tackling, he comes in hot a lot and his technique is not fantastic. He needs to do a better job of like breaking down his feet. If he can do that, he will be a very sound tackler. As things stand, I mean, he does make plays. It's not like his missed tackle rate is disgustingly bad. It was in the low 20s. So those two things will go a long way. But the biggest thing, at least in my opinion, is the run defense, and more specifically his ability to stack and shed, because it's fine right now, but if he could get more consistent with that, if he can more consistently get his hands inside the tackle's chest, hold his ground, read the running back, shed the tackle, and make a play in the backfield, he would be a number one. Like, he would be that Batman type of player. As it stands, he can do that. It's just not consistent. Sometimes he will lose the running back. Sometimes he will fall for misdirection. Sometimes he'll just get stuck on the block. And those are things that need to improve. They are absolutely improvable because not only is Akis a smart player, but he's only 21. He's got plenty of time to get better, plenty of time to improve. As a run defender, I really do like his ability to set the edge. He does a great job using his length to his advantage, getting that extension, getting low against bigger tackles. So it's not a total lost cause as a run defender. Like, I think his floor is okay. It's passable. It's not bad to the point where you physically cannot put him on potential rushing downs when he gets into the NFL, but it definitely could and needs to be better. That being said, as a pass rusher, Akis is so much fun. He's got good play strength. He's got a really fun bull rush, really fun power profile, a good pop in his hands to jolt guys up right off the snap, keeps his hands busy as a pass rusher, never sits with idle hands or idle feet. He does a great job weaponizing his lateral quickness to beat guys across their face or use it as a counter when his initial rush stalls. Looking at his arsenal, he's got a nice swim move, an inside spin, some chops, some rips, some swipes. He can do a little bit of everything there. The speed to power, like I said, the bull rush, very, very nice. First step, explosive. He is like almost lightning quick off the snap there. And then as a run defender, I mean, he does take on blocks with a lot of violence. His gap discipline was better in 2025 than it had been in previous years, which is inspiring. And he is really, really good at blowing up pulling blockers as a run defender. If you send a guard his way, he is going to, throw all of his weight into that blocker, stand him up, take him off his path, and he's not going to let him do much of anything. So I really, really like Akis. I think he is going to be someone that, again, could start day one as a number 2 and has the ability to become even better. Reminds me a little bit of Trey Hendrickson. I think Akis is a little bit more fluid than Hendrickson is and has the ability to be a better run defender. But Hendrickson was another guy that kind of slipped because he didn't have this wow you speed or blow you away athleticism, and just kind of one being violent and being a good technician. And, very similar build. Akis is at 6'4", 260. I think Hendrickson is at 6'4", 265. I'll fact check myself on that. I'm not a big comp guy, but I did see a lot of Hendrickson when I was watching Akis, and that gets me very excited. So for all the teams out there that missed out on the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes, 21-year-old Trey Hendrickson could be coming to a defensive line near you. At number 4, we have Zion Young, the senior out of Missouri. And we're going to start with, like we did with David Bailey, by addressing the elephant in the room, and that is the 2 major character red flags with Zion Young. The first of which is the fact that he was arrested his freshman year, was charged with assault, because he got into a fight with a couple Michigan players after the game in the tunnel. And that's a bad look. I mean, point blank period. Again, like I said with David Bailey, you can't be throwing hands on the football field, especially not after the game. That's just a really dumb thing to do. But Zion Young was a freshman and made a dumb mistake, and hopefully has matured from that. I say hopefully because he made another really dumb mistake in December and was arrested under a DWI. He was driving while intoxicated. And listen, I fucking hate the idea of people driving while intoxicated, whether it's alcohol, weed, any other substance. If you are under the effects of any sort of substance, you should not get behind the wheel of a multiple 1,000-pound death machine. Like, I don't think that's like a controversial take, but you absolutely should not do that. I think it is a horrible thing to do. For the love of God, call an Uber, call a cab, call a friend, call somebody, walk even. Just don't put the lives of others and yourself at risk. We have seen how poorly this can impact people's lives. It can take lives. We have seen that happen time and time again. That being said, again, like with David Bailey, I do not want to sit here and pretend this is the worst thing that an NFL player has ever done. And I do not want to sit here and pretend like this is going to completely derail Zion Young's career and make him an undraftable player. For some teams, he might be undraftable, and I think that's fine, as long as you stay consistent with that, right? So, with Zion Young, the reason I have him so high, even despite that, is because I think he's a very safe prospect. I would honestly probably have him as my edge 3 if it was not for the DWI. Because again, you can't do that. You just simply cannot. But I like a lot of what he has to offer. Sure, he's not a bendy player. He's not the most athletic player. You can't drop him into coverage. But he is a strong, powerful pass rusher who is consistently going to win as a run defender. He is the second best run defender in this class. And there's an argument to be made that he might even be a better run defender than Keldrick Falk because he is a consistent tackler. I really, really like Zion Young's game on the field. High motor, very nice first step that can be lethal. There are moments where he explodes off the ball. It's just not consistent. If you can make that consistent, watch out, right? High football IQ, very good instincts. As a pass rusher, his hands are strong, active, and accurate. He can jolt blockers upright with a single punch. He uses his strong arms to swipe away at blockers. He's got a couple different swipe variations in his bag. He has a really nice long arm move because of his 33-inch arms. His leg drive and ability to convert speed to power gives him a very nice bull rush. And he has a good bit of nuance for a bigger guy. Now, he doesn't have some super, super deep bag. He's no Leatu Latu, but like he can win with a swim or a spin, and he can turn his bull rush and long arm into counters and just kind of keep guys on their toes. As a run defender, again, teach tape across the board. Very, very good diagnostics. Does a great job sniffing out option plays and reading lanes. He stacks and sheds consistently. He has a very, very good anchor, to hold his ground as a run defender while setting the edge. He consistently wraps up ball carriers. Like, he is a very high floor player. Again, another like number 2. If he can get that first step more consistent and continue to work with his hands, he could be a number 1. But, you know, there's still a little bit of room to grow there, and potentially room to grow as a person as well. On the negative side of things, again, not a good athlete, not bendy. The first step is inconsistent, as I said, and also I don't like how often he tries to work around blocks. That can be an issue where instead of just getting his hands into the chest of the blocker and deconstructing that block, which you know he can do, he will try to slip the block or whatever, and he's just not slippery enough to be doing that consistently. It can work in his favor from time to time, but you'd like to see him just kind of push that to the side and lock in, right? So Zion Young he's a tough one for me because I watched his tape, fell in love with the player, and then I did my research on his background after the fact, which I normally don't do, but I was just so excited to get into his tape because I had seen some clips on Twitter, and I definitely walked away a little bit disappointed in that regard. But Again, he's 22. He could have just made some mistakes. There's a world where he can grow from this. And I'm going to reiterate, like I said with David Bailey, if Mike Green could get drafted on day 2 last year, despite all the shit he did, if James Pierce, who I completely forgot about earlier with David Bailey, if James fucking Pierce can be in the National Football League and was a day 1 pick, good God. If those guys can be in the National Football League with all of the shit they have done, why can't Zion Young? Because it's, again, for my morals, everyone's morals are different, but for my morals, I don't think it's nearly as bad as what some of the others have done. At number 3, we've got Arvell Reese, the junior from Ohio State. And if we're going to be talking about a high upside edge rusher that has a lot of work to do and is currently winning primarily with athletic tools, I think Arvell Reese is the way better prospect. Because not only is Arvell Reese a freak athlete with fantastic speed, a very good first step, good agility, pretty damn good play strength as well, but he has a decent floor as a run defender and can play multiple positions. Like Arvell Reese, to me, you take him in the top 5, you try him as a pass rusher. If it doesn't work, he's only 20. You give him like 2 years. By the time he's 22, halfway through his contract, if it's not working, let him play off-ball linebacker. And sure, he's not going to be as valuable as an edge rusher would have been, but at least then you have a starting caliber player, right? Arvell Reese has the ceiling of a very, very good pass rusher, like a true number 1 Batman, potential game changer type, really, with his athleticism, and has the floor of like a fun Sam linebacker that can play downhill and, you know, work in specific packages as a blitzer and hold his own in a zone. Like, there's, I would say, a safer floor with a guy like Arvell Reese. Now, obviously, if you're drafting the guy in the top 3, you want him to be the edge rusher, but at least if he fails, it's not a, oh, well, we spent this pick on him, he's off the team in 4 years. It's, oh, well, we spent this pick on him, and he's not quite what we wanted, but he's still something, right? So Reese, like I said, super athlete, very, very fast, really good first step, super explosive off the line. His bend, I know, has been a topic of discussion because of that workout video, but, like, it wasn't bad, honestly, on tape. Watching him at Ohio State, when he did get into situations where he was able to show off his lower half flexibility, it looked better than it did in that drill. I don't know what was going on in that drill. I couldn't begin to tell you, but when you actually watch the tape, it wasn't very frequent, which is why I don't have it any higher than a B, but when he did get to show off his lower half flexibility, he could bend the corner, he could win around the edge, he could duck under a tackle's arm and make plays around the edge there. So I don't think it's as bad as that video leads us to believe. Now, I could be wrong because, again, it was infrequent. Maybe that's a better representative of what he actually is, but we'll have to see. I'm willing to bank on it being the good instead of the bad because of the athletic traits, right? He's such an athletic player, it would make sense to me if he could also bend the corner. Additionally, as a pass rusher, very good power. He delivers a lot of pop on initial contact despite only being 240 pounds. And it's not like it's just coming against running backs. Like, he will erase a running back if you ask him to block him one-on-one, you know, if Reese is lined up as a true off-ball linebacker, or when he came off the edge and running backs tried to handle him. You can't do that. He is going to throw that running back on his ass every single time and make him look silly. Against tackles, he gets a lot of pop. Like, he can get his hands into the tackle's chest, drive him back with his bull rush, you know, get behind his pads, convert speed into power. There's a lot to get excited about there, and it could get even better because, quite frankly, his technique was not that great, right? If he does a better job of getting lower and getting even more behind his pads, ooh, baby, like, he could really, really make a difference in that regard. Now, the hand usage is bad. You know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend anything else. In fact, I saw an interview today with Ben Solak talking to Arvell Reese, and Reese said that he wasn't given much instruction when it came to rushing the passer, so he was just kind of freestyling out there. And it looked good. The freestyling showed a lot of potential. So if you put him with an NFL coaching staff that actually will have ideas for him or things they want him to do, I really feel like the hand usage in the pass rushing arsenal can get better. He did have some flashes here and there, but, you know, the consistency wasn't there. It's something that will have to be developed. But again, he's only 20 years old. He's declaring as a true junior, or is it a redshirt sophomore? Either way, only 20 years old. Like, he's got room to grow. As a run defender, very good block shedder. Does a great job deconstructing blocks. He can stack and shed consistently. He can handle tackles, tight ends, guards. You know, he can handle his end of things. The only thing is the gap discipline isn't great just because he is still adjusting to the position. Did not play full-time edge his senior year, if you were unaware, so he doesn't have like the instincts and the knowledge of his gaps to really hold his own like you would want him to. His edge setting ability is also a little lackluster because of his lack of arm length, but if he fills out those arms a little bit, then it could definitely improve. Loved him as a tackler, very sound tackler, good coverage player who maybe won't survive as a true like Mike linebacker, but again, if he was playing Sam or you're blitzing him off the edge, he can drop into a zone, he can read and react, not super instinctive, but he's got enough. Can also stick with like running backs and man coverage, really good motor. So Reese is an exciting player. He's a very, very fun player. I love the upside with him. And again, I cannot say this enough. If we're taking one of the developmental edges in the top 3, it shouldn't be David Bailey. It should be Arvell Reese every single day. He should be the pick at number 2 for the Jets if they don't want Ruben Bain, who we'll talk about. I really like him a lot more as far as developmental edges are concerned in this class. At number 2, getting into the guys that have true first-round grades for me, we have Akeem Mesidor, the 6th-year senior out of Miami. And I know the old saying goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? But what if the old dog knew all the tricks already? That's kind of what you're getting with Mesidor. Like, there is not really anything to teach here. You just take him, you plug him in, and you reap the benefits. Now, sure, he might not be an athletic freak. He might not have some crazy upside. But what you are getting in Mesidor is an incredibly refined product. And for teams that are competing now, I think Mesidor is a worthwhile pick. Now, the Jets, the Cardinals, top 3 picks. Don't take Mesidor. You are not in a position to compete right now. He is not going to help you. You take one of the younger edge rushers, right? That makes a ton of sense to me. No complaints there, because for a team that's rebuilding, taking a 25-year-old edge rusher would be a terrible idea. But look at like a Chicago, Kansas City. I've seen a lot of people mocking him to Tampa. These teams that need edge help, but their rosters are close or right there. That would make a ton of sense, because you're not trying to compete in 3 to 4 years. You're trying to win a Super Bowl this year, right? You are ready. Mesidor is a player that is ready, so bringing him in would make a ton of sense. Now, we'll get the weaknesses out of the way. Obviously, 25. Arm length isn't ideal. His power profile is fine, but it's nothing special. And he has a lingering foot injury that could potentially cause some issues for him. We'll see how that works out. Obviously, teams will have better medical info than I do, so they will be able to make a decision more educated than I could. But taking a look at the good, because that's really all there is with the bad with Mesidor, apart from one thing, but we'll talk about that along with the good. A good athlete, not a great athlete, but a good athlete. Very high motor player, consistently plays through the whistle, consistently runs after ball carriers. Played inside and outside at Miami with damn good tape in both spots. Definitely more of an edge defender, but he could hold his own as a 4-eye, maybe a 3 technique in specific packages. First step is very good. He uses active, precise hands as a pass rusher. His footwork is incredible. This allows him to consistently keep linemen on their toes and allows him to pull off a very effective Euro step move. His bag of moves is very good. He has swims, rips, a cross chop, a very solid bull rush, and that Euro step that I just mentioned. So he's kind of got it all as a pass rusher. Sure, his bull rush won't like overwhelm anybody, but it doesn't need to, because he's not going into every rep thinking he's going to run through the tackle. He's going into every rep thinking he's going to set them up with this and this and then counter into that. Like, he's got a really good pass rushing repertoire, and he's got a really good pass rushing plan. His hands are very active. He's in a really good spot as a hand fighter, especially with that footwork to pair with it. Additionally, he's also very good against screens. He has fantastic eye discipline against them. He sniffs them out quickly, and he's able to attack accordingly. Does a good job of like avoiding blockers to get to wherever the screen is being thrown. As a run defender, good enough diagnostics. Not going to blow you away, but he definitely can see and react, right? He can hold his own by setting the edge. Doesn't have the longest arms, like I said, so that does hurt it a little bit, but he can drop his anchor, get an arm out, hold his own, can hold good gap discipline. He can shed blocks. The biggest thing with his run defending is going to be over eagerness. He gets like a little too excited to defend the run sometimes, which will hurt his ability to, remain disciplined against the run. Sometimes he will shoot a gap or go flying in with his head down, and that will cause some problems. That's something that can very easily be fixed. It's not a huge issue, in my opinion. And it's one of those things where, yeah, we're talking about a 25-year-old, but he could improve with that. That could take an off season, just kind of get him to keep his head up a little bit more and play a little bit more patiently. That could be a big benefit. He also can hold his own in a shallow zone and coverage, but you're probably not going to be asking him to do that very often. Either way, Mesidor, I understand, is not going to be for everybody. I know the age is going to scare a lot of people off, but given the fact that he's not raw, he is a very refined prospect who had good production as a senior, was very, very good next to our number one guy, I like him a lot. I'm a very big Mesidor fan. As a Bears fan, I would be elated to have him in Chicago. I know I've said that about a couple guys, but I really want a pass rusher this year, man. I love Austin Booker. He's maybe my favorite Bear, but Montez Sweat, I don't have a lot of faith in. So, point being, Mesidor, very, very good if you're contending. If you're not, maybe look at an Arvel Reese or the guy that we're going to talk about here at number 1. And finally, at number 1, hopefully to the surprise of no one, I've got Ruben Bain, the junior out of Miami. And listen, I don't give a flying fuck that he has 30 and 7/8 inch arms. I really do not. Because he makes up for it in every way imaginable. It's like I said earlier with Cassius Howell. If you have short arms, the margin for error becomes slighter. You do not have as much room to lollygag and play around. Bain doesn't do any of that. He is a very smart, active hand fighter who is able to keep blockers out of his frame, can jolt guys upright with a strong punch. He has a very good understanding of when to tap into his counters. Anytime he stalls out just a little bit, he knows exactly, okay, I gotta hit this spin, I gotta dip underneath, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. He is so good at going from his main move stalling out into a counter. He has a very effective bull rush, even though he's not the longest player in the world, because he has a ton of power, gets low, and his arms are filled out. They're not long, but they are thick. They are strong. And that gives him a really good bull rush and really good pop in his hands, like I said. It also helps him when he's setting the edge against the run. So because he is so good with his hands and his arms are so strong, a lot of the issues with arm length really are not as big of an issue. Now, sure, there will be times where a player is going to get their hands into his chest and he's not going to be able to do a whole lot about it. That will happen, and it's going to suck. But Bain does such a good job of making sure that does not happen consistently. If it happens 1 out of every 8 reps, you're feeling great about that, because those other 7 reps, Bain's going to make the guy pay for that 1 rep where he won, right? Very, very exciting player. We'll start out with the pass rushing. I already talked about the hand fighting and all that. He has good bend. He can beat guys around the corner. He has very, very good footwork. Again, him and Bain working with, I forget who the Miami defensive line coach is. I will pop it up on the screen. It's a NFL legend that really emphasized footwork with those two, and it is so apparent on their film. The way these guys are able to manipulate their bodies and keep guys guessing with the way they move their feet is so incredible. His bag is very good. He has a bull rush, a rip dip, a cross chop, swims, swipes, spins. He's got a little bit of everything there. He is such a fun pass rusher to watch. I mean, he was super productive in 2 out of his 3 seasons, had 9.5 sacks and 15 TFLs last year, both of which were career highs. Really good athlete, maybe not going to blow you away with his speed, but his first step's very good. His play strength is great. He's got good lateral agility to cut across someone's face. He played defensive end and 3 technique for Miami. He's a true versatile, fits in any type of defense player. Maybe better suited in an even front, but could definitely play in an odd front. And then as a run defender, he's really freaking good there too, man. He can stack and shed well. He has very good gap discipline, very good run diagnostics. He does a good job dropping his anchor and holding ground to set the edge as a run defender. He's got a little bit of everything there. The tackling isn't great, just because of the arm length. He will struggle to wrap up from time to time. And you're not going to ask him to drop into coverage. Maybe every once in a while he could potentially hold his own a little bit. But if you're asking Bain to drop into coverage, you're wasting his talents, quite frankly. So wouldn't be counting on that. But he has everything. He has everything as a pass rusher. Now, I'm not going to do the thing I did when I talked about Jeremiah Love, where I was more concerned about his ranking among the last 10 draft classes than I was with this draft class because of how good Jeremiah Love is. But Ruben Bain does grade out as a top 5 edge for me since I have started evaluating prospects, which has been since 2023. He comes in behind, in order, Laiatu Latu, Jared Verse, Tyree Wilson, and Will Anderson Jr. Only one miss in that group, I would say. It was very high on Tyree Wilson, and that did not work out in my favor. But like, I really do think he's one of the better edge rushers that has come out these past couple years, and whoever lands him is going to be reaping the benefits big time. And I'm so ready for him to get into the league because I am so tired of all of the overthinking with Bain. Like, he's such a good player, man. I know the arm length will scare people off, but to that I say players have survived with shorter arms in the league at edge primarily through strength, and Bain has a ton of it. You look at a guy like James Harrison, for example. Now, he's not my shades of for Ruben Bain. I don't do one-to-one comps for those who don't know. I know I didn't really talk about him in any of the other ones, but this one is notable with the Harrison thing. It's just how I view a player, like what they remind me of when they play, as opposed to saying, I think they will be this player, right? I watched Ruben Bain. I saw a lot of Brandon Graham. He's like Brandon Graham with shorter arms, So James Harrison is a guy that made a big career for himself with very short arms. And he was a damn good football player. I think Bain can be that, if not even better. So, arm length aside, Bain's a baller. I'm very excited to see him in the league. I know I've said that about a lot of guys, but I really, really like this edge class. It's a fun edge class. I've got 20 watched. I'm going to watch 5 more. I don't think Michael Heldman, Logan Fano, Jack Pyburn, Mason Rieger, or Tyreek Sapp will work their way into my top 10. But if they do somehow, then I'll make a separate video talking about them to give them their flowers. But either way, I really like this class. I really like Bain. Very excited to see what they're going to do in the NFL. But that is going to do it for this video for now. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like down below, as it does help out the channel a ton. Shows your support, shows you care, and I really do appreciate it. Also, make sure to subscribe for more NFL content coming your way up until the draft, and then beyond. We'll be doing post-draft content. Still got some pre-draft content planned. I know I'm really slacking on the latter, but we're getting there. I'm doing shorts pretty much every day, and for the days that I don't do shorts, I am doubling up on another day to make up for it. You're going to have one short for every day between when I started 2 weeks ago up until the draft. So definitely be on the lookout for them. I've already posted a couple edge rushers. I believe I posted Mesidor and Zion Young and Jayshawn Barham are the 3 I've done. I will probably do more. And then we'll have other positions too. So if you want to check those out, definitely make sure to do so. And above all else, I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you truly do deserve it.